has worked for Ericsson over 10 years. He had a really good background in the technology, why he lack of human skill, people skills. So, and he also not very outgoing. So problem happens when it came to 3G innovation. At that time, because we are facing a severe competition with other companies, so we're trying to start to outsourcing business models to subcontract all other agent company to invite more engineers from the agent company to join the 3G projects. So once we subcontracted a Malaysia agent company, and everything went smoothly except to the final payment process. One day, my director came to me saying that, hey, we haven't still paying for the customer yet. So the customer called me. So then I look into my payment records and find that it's pending for 2 weeks. And the reason why is because this Chinese manager haven't approved it. So, it's been 2 weeks, and for small companies, they can, driven them to death. So by that time, my director gave priority to this case. Finally, we close it, we make the payment, and we make the customer happy. But when I track the records, I find that actually this Chinese manager has let other local agent company went through the payment process earlier. So it's a favoritism. And another problem is that this manager imposed the workload to the engineers, having them to help the project manager to writing the project proposal. So, but by doing that, the engineers are more overloaded because they had to do technical stuff as well as dealing with the project proposal. But it should be the project manager's duty here. To plan for the project and writing the proposal. So the engineers complain to my director and saying that they want to quit or even change to another department. By that time, my director holding a management team meeting and being clear on the division of labor and also talking about retaining the talents. So by doing that, and also he went individually to those engineers and trying to persuade them to stay. So finally, he won the trust from the employee. So from this story, we clearly see two types of management. Garden 2008 has utilized Edward Hall's low context culture and high context culture theory to compare the Western way of management versus the Eastern way. So the Western management was more associated with the low context culture. The way that people communicate was more direct to the point, while the Eastern way of communication was more indirect and ambiguous. So that's why we see in this case, my director always, went to the point and solving the problems. While the Chinese manager, he didn't really talk to the customers, neither with his employee. The second point is discrimination and favoritism. A lot of times, we see the scholars saying that multicultural organizations should have absence of prejudice and discrimination, low level of intergroup conflict. But we do see these things happen, especially for the project management team. In China, it's a typical thing that they transfer to this position without being very qualified. They could transfer from a business function or administrative function. They lack this kind of technical background. So a lot of times, we don't have a clear division of labor. And also, from the payment issue, we can see that the Chinese manager was holding buyers towards the foreign agent companies and doing favor to the companies that he had a personal relationship with. The third point is subculture and groupthink. A lot of times when we're talking about organizational culture, we were talking about organizational values, attitudes, strategies, goals, but we still have subcultures that people in the company forming themselves. Those are underlying assumptions, taking for granted beliefs, habits of thoughts. Gao by 2007 has pointed out that the subculture actually would identify as the cause of organizational groupthink that kept members from expressing their ideas. And also, because of the multinational workplace settings, people are more engaged in groupthink because they know about the cultural difference. They want to avoid the conflicts. So by having these issues, several solutions were proposed.
2 minutes.
Oh, okay. This is the last slide I have. Okay. The first point that we're calling for more localized top management team. As you know, that decision making came from the top management team were more effective. You know, the way that they behave, their preference, their managerial styles could influence on a leader and follower relationships. Also, in this organization, especially in multinational companies, two managers, they're from different cultures. The way that they could work out should be adapt both ways. And also, intercultural training was very important. BIMO 1992 has proposed this intercultural learning model. The aim is to helping people aware of the cultural difference, as well as categorize those stereotypes and challenge them, analyzing the problem in a real-life scenario, as well as achieving the final intercultural competence. My final point is that intercultural communication could be established to helping with the intercultural communication problems. Interpersonal communication is very important. Being more truthful, open, honest could engender trust and reducing the conflicts. And also HR's role. HR should watch over the hiring process, making sure that people gets hired is qualified for the job. So intercultural communication actually is a broad topics. You know, how a big company, a big Western company can survive in China by having a large group of local employees, why these employees could do a better job in a foreign company by adapting their culture. So we still have a long way to go. So here's my reference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.